So recently I did a video with a fine gentleman, Reed Coverdale, the naturalist capitalist, made an appearance on the program. And I revealed rather early in the video who I'm going to be voting for. Something I haven't actually talked about very much on my own channel. Really, I haven't even told you at all who I was going to be voting for. I've told you who I wouldn't be voting for. I told you who I was more than likely to vote for. At one point, I had kind of leaned a little closer to probably going Green Party. No, not happening. First of all, some recent issues have really shown me just how much of an actual independent I am and not a leftist. Certain issues I agree with the left on, and I'm not going to abandon that just because I'm having some disagreements. No, that's not the kind of person I am. But I'm going to be a principled guy. I'll stand for what I think is right. I'll oppose what I don't think is right. And even for who I'm going to be voting for, on the way, I'm going to do what I think everyone should do, and that is voice their concerns and speak their mind on what they think should be done that could potentially be better, voice their criticisms, because that is the actual patriotic thing to do. You're supposed to hold elected leaders' feet to the fire. I'll talk about what I think are the good things and what I think could use some improvement. I'm going to be talking about that. So without further ado, if you haven't seen that video, who am I going to be voting for in November? It is official. I'll be voting with the gold team. I will be voting for the Libertarian Party, Joe Jorgensen. Okay? That being said, let's talk about why I decided and I would be voting for Joe Jorgensen, okay? First of all, we've got a candidate here who doesn't want to continue to go down the path of endless war. Something that our current president talked about, but hasn't exactly done a whole heck of a lot about, okay? So, here's a candidate who wants that to be done, okay? We're going to get out of the war. So that's already huge tick up in my opinion because we're spending way too much of that on war. Even if we didn't slash the budget right now, even if we just reallocated money, kind of like what they're talking about doing with defund the police supposedly, right? Like investing into more social workers and stuff. Imagine if we took all the money we were spending on the military-industrial complex and actually started focusing it on our problems here at home, what we could probably do. Okay, now I understand that's not necessarily what a libertarian would do. They're looking to cut the fat. Okay, they want to trim that budget down, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay, so but just for the fact to get that out of the wars, huge A plus on that issue. Okay, on the issue of trade. Okay, this is where I kind of differ from the more right-wing stance. So They want a system where we can trade with anyone and there not be tariff tax and trade wars and this and that. Now, I want to make this perfectly clear. I'm not a trade expert, but I'm a blue-collar guy with a little bit of what we like to call common sense. So, if you're trading with a country whose economic status really isn't that much different than ours, the working conditions really aren't that much different than ours, right? There's people who work in these countries who have worker benefits. They're not overworked. There's not sweatshop conditions. The people make somewhat okay money, okay? If you're trading on that sort of a playing field, yeah, free trade, I don't think really does much damage because it's not like their product coming into the country is being made at such a cheaper cost that it could just kill American-made product. See, that was the problem with free trade with Mexico at the time, or anything China, because their stuff was made so much cheaper. Why was it made so much cheaper? Because the working conditions were a lot worse than what you got right here in the United States. Therefore, because they could work people in sweatshop style conditions, they were able to make it for cheaper prices. Therefore, it was able to lowball American-made products on our own market and drive American jobs who stayed to follow suit and outsource to make profit and stay in business, or they wouldn't be able to compete in prices, or they would have to lower the quality of the actual product to compete with those prices, and therefore it wouldn't actually be as good as it used to be. There's a lot of things that came into play there, right? So a lot of people under this free trade deal type thing left. So therein lies your problem with the free trade. You can't practice it with a country whose working standards for these corporations aren't on par with ours. If they're not on the same playing field, if they're not on par with us, then you're literally doing this. We're here, they're here. Their stuff's cheaper. It's going to hit our market. It's going to lowball other products. People living on a budget because of where people's incomes are at, because of inflation, because wages haven't grown, because of a complete mismanagement of our system, are going to go with what they think the best bargain is. And that might not be what's made in America. Therefore, it hurts the American jobs. First, and adding to that whole made in America thing, it's hard to find much stuff made in America anymore, right? Because it's all being made somewhere else. So when you put that free trade aspect in place, the only way to balance it back out would be if their standard is here, you're going to take our working standard and the quality of things that are afforded for our workers to guarantee that they have good benefits and things back to here. And that's the only way you're going to be able to compete. Well, I don't want to see that happen to the American worker. Okay? I think that the American worker, we built a lot. Now, is there some fat that could be trimmed from bureaucrats and all the red tape paperwork? Sure. But do I think we should get rid of OSHA necessarily? No. Do I believe that we should get rid of workers' benefits because it's too costly for employers? No. Okay? Do I think there should be absolutely no minimum wage controls at all? No. Do I think the federal minimum wage is effective? No. Absolutely not. So now we find an issue where I'm kind of more in line with the libertarians. For the folks who think that $15 an hour is an answer to everything, you're wrong. You're simply wrong. Okay, $15, and I said this in a video when I went on the Naturalist Capitalist show. Okay, $15 an hour does virtually nothing in New York City and California. It's a little bit above what some folks could be making in my backyard and still be making somewhat okay money. But it ain't what you're going to make at McDonald's. And do I think that a McDonald's worker should be making $15 an hour? Not necessarily. McDonald's isn't supposed to be a career job. Neither is Burger King. That's jobs for kids getting out of high school. You should be trying to get something that pays a little bit better. You know? Now, we're going to, again, touch on an education factor here in just a minute, and we're going to get back to that. But focus on this for a minute. That's kids' jobs. If you're 40 years old and you've been working at Burger King for 20 years and you're not even like the manager, something's wrong. That's not a career job, and you shouldn't have been sticking there your entire life. And also, I get that the bleeding heart mentality from a lot of the left is, well, we got to take care of them. Nah, at some point, personal responsibility has to come in, because I haven't even been working for 20 years, and yet I've been able to land a job. Blame it on white privilege or whatever here, okay? I've been able to land a job, and again, yeah, if I had so much white privilege, explain to me why I've actually got some things but still can't get good health insurance because it's too damn costly, okay? So don't even come at me with the white privilege bullshit, all right? But even at the age that I'm at, I've landed a job. I have a 3-bedroom house, 2-bathroom, and a nice little chunk of land, a comfortable family. Some people could say I have more cars than I need, but whatever. They're mine. Mind your own business. I have, for the record, by the way, I have 4 cars. So, just throwing that out there. Whatever. Anyway, back to my point. Okay. So, I've been able to get something, even at this age. If you want it, you're going to find a way. It doesn't mean you're going to live like a rich guy. I don't live like a rich guy. If I did, I'd have some damn health insurance. But you can get something better than Burger King. For sure. For sure. So if you're not, it's your own fault, dude. Seriously. I mean, maybe not. And I'm sure there are some few examples that are exceptions to what I just said. But it is by no means the majority of anyone doing that, okay? So that has to be taken into consideration right there. Minimum wages should be determined by the states because the cost of living differs state to state. Again, $15 an hour here, you could be making some pretty good money. And you could probably, if you budgeted it right and had a roommate, afford a nice apartment, you know? You could feed yourself. You'd be lucky to just feed yourself in New York, okay? You'd be lucky to do anything with that kind of money in those places. But you're certainly probably not going to have a roof over your head, okay? So there's a huge difference there. This, again, should be determined state to state. Now, can the government do nothing but just turn it over to states? Absolutely not. See, this is where I believe there needs to be more business dealings in our government. What happened to wheeling and dealing? I mean, seriously, that's like my problem with the just open cutting of taxes with no strings attached. Has anyone ever heard of one hand wash the other? If we turn minimum wage controls back over to the state, then we need to have a system in place where states actually put it in place. And there has to be something done where they show that the minimum wage that they've set for their state is actually a reflection of what people kind of need to be earning within their state to somewhat survive, right? And if they're not willing to do that, then the federal government can lean in on them a little bit, just like they did when they wanted seatbelt laws mandatory, just like they did when they wanted the drinking ages done, and all these different things that the federal government has kind of leaned in on the states for. They can do that and get their result that they're looking for. And it's not actually the federal government having to regulate it. It's the states having to regulate it at that point. Okay? So, I mean, it can be done. Okay? Furthermore than that, okay, let's pivot back to the education thing. Okay? The Department of Education, some folks are going to be adamant it needs to stick around. And I can understand why. You start talking about getting rid of the Department of Education, you're going to worry an awful lot of people, right? It's kind of a touchy subject. You're talking about our kids' education out there, right? Be careful what you say. Here's the facts. While they've been in charge, we went from first in the world's education down to number 27. Now, how is that possible? How could a good government institution screw it up that bad that we drop 27 places down in the world? I thought we were supposed to be the world leader in all these different things. We're not. And that's because Democrats and Republicans have ruined it. They've ruined the country. They've ruined our jobs. They've ruined our trade deals. They've ruined our pensions. They've ruined our Social Security money. They've ruined all of it. They've ruined our education system. We're trying to put crap in place like Common Core and all this junk, right? But here is the biggest problem with our education system. We're not producing people who can do jobs. Here's what you've got to understand. You might not like the way the world is built, but the world is structured like a pyramid. You need to understand that, okay? The world is structured like a pyramid. Now, everyone starts at the base of the pyramid. Are there some people who could do whatever their skills allow them to do and reach the very top point? Absolutely. Just because you start at the bottom doesn't mean you stay at the bottom. But does that mean everyone that starts at the bottom is going to wind up at the top or right there close to it? No. That is a cold, hard fact of life here, folks. It ain't going to happen. It simply is not going to happen. Okay? You're not going to have a world full of liberal arts degree people who are philosophers and painters and liberal thinkers who write books and sell novels while there's welding needing to be done, while there's ditches needing to be dug, while there's cars needing to be worked on. Somebody's got to do these jobs. And even for the jobs that automation has replaced, somebody's got to work on the damn automation to keep it running. Somebody has to be a technician for it, right? So the guy who went to college, read these ancient philosophers from hundreds of years ago, and they come out with an understanding of the human mind and how the soul and the spirit works, and how our chi affects our daily lives, and how we keep our ohm in check and all this bullshit. That's who's going to go out there and do it? Absolutely not. They'll never get that job unless they go back to school, which then requires more money. By the way, they're probably either already racked up in debt from their first stint through college, or they got a lot of government money to go, one of the two, maybe even both, okay? But now they've got to find a way to get back into a trade school somewhere and learn a trade to get a job like that. Understand, if you go to the trade school and learn how to weld and bypass all that, you're going to have a job where you might have to really work. You might be sweating your ass off. When you leave at the end of the day, you could have sweat like a pig, okay? You're going to make some money. You're going to make some money. And you probably won't be loaded up with a bunch of student debt either. And you're probably going to come out way more in the green than you would if you went in there to get that liberal arts degree. So, that brings the question. Why do so many people keep going for that liberal arts degree? Because our current education system that has dropped us to 27th in the world, that has taken us so far down the totem pole, is pushing BS on us that we have to go get this degree, or we don't stand a chance at anything. If we don't have an associate's, a bachelor's, or a master's degree, your career is screwed. And before you can even get to the associate's degree, while you're in high school, working on your high school diploma, you have to check off all these boxes showing you've completed all these different classes that you may never even use again when you hit the real world. For example, chemistry. Okay. What if I never have to use it again? What if I never have to use chemistry again? Forget that. Forget chemistry. I guess you could use chemistry in more places. How about dissecting the frog in the science class, right? What if I never have to dissect another frog? Why do I need it? Likewise, how about 11th and 12th grade English? How about where we're reading the Odyssey? How about where we're reading Shakespeare? I could go the next 50 years and never have to read another damn thing about Shakespeare. Why do I need to know this? You've spent all these years in school teaching me how to read, teaching me how to write. By the way, don't want to hear it in the comment section. No, English was not my best subject in school, but it's beside the point. I know enough I can function in a daily life. It's not like I can't read at all. It's not like I would pick up a book and look at it like it was written in Arabic. I know what it says, as long as it's written in English, okay? I can read it. I can read a book. And I'm not going to read it one sentence every one word every 6 seconds, right? Like, I can read at a decent pace. I learned enough in school about English. From K-5 all the way up through middle school, on to high school. Why do you need to keep shoving English back in my face every year? Meanwhile, at these high schools, they're partnered up with a small trade school. But it ain't just my high school. 2 other high schools also partner up with it. And if you're quick to the guidance counselor's office and you jump on these classes, you can sign up for them. Oh, but by the way, You can't sign up for welding, automotive tech, machine tool, or the body shop class where you like work on the body of a car. Like, I think it was auto collision they called it, right? Can't sign up for any of those until you're in the 11th or 12th grade. So 9th graders, no. 10th graders, no. 11th and 12th, yes. But you're competing against 2 other high schools. Guess how quick those classes filled up? Like that. You better be real quick to that office or you weren't getting into class. Now, if you had expanded the size of that school to allow more kids to take that, and instead of making those classes electives, actually letting some of that other crap that you might never use again be electives, and start requiring that you have to start taking classes that would put you into a trade, even if you don't use it. If you want to squander it and still go after your liberal arts degree, that's fine. But at least you've taken that class for something. And it didn't even have to be one of those. You also had a drafting class, right? Where you worked with AutoCAD. You made map blueprints, right? You had horticulture, where you worked with the plants. You had all these different things. You had the law enforcement class, right? You had all these different things. Woodworking, carpentry, something. Learn a trade. Learn a trade. Something you can apply in case your liberal arts degree doesn't work out and you can actually make some money at, right? And so again, what we're finding is out of the jobs we still have, certain people can't do them because they have no certification or qualification to do them because they've wasted their time chasing that liberal arts degree that our current education system has forced down our young folks' throats. Doesn't seem to be doing its job, doesn't seem to be giving us much return of investment. I don't know that you get rid of it per se, but it certainly needs a massive, massive overhaul because this shit ain't working. It sucks. Period. Needs a massive overhaul. Complete. Okay? At the very least. If you want to throw it out with the bathwater and put something new in place, I'm fine with that too. Whatever. Okay? So right there, completely we need education reform, without a doubt. Now, let's talk taxes, okay? Cutting complete taxes across the board for everyone. That's going to be one of those where I do kind of lean more towards some of the Keynesian economics type of thinking. That ain't going to go over well with the libertarian folks, but let's just be honest, okay? If you're making buku amounts of money, it's like Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Paying a little bit more and you're a billionaire ain't gonna kill you. But if we actually got a government that was of the people, for the people, by the people again, instead of, don't get me wrong, the current one would squander it. They've shown us that. They're not gonna actually do with the tax money. So I completely understand from a libertarian aspect why that tax money ain't going to do any good. It's not going to do any good. By the way, you hear me saying ain't here, right? Remember that English class thing? So, yeah, that tax money is going to be put to waste. So that's why we need the government overhaul. We need a government that's actually going to do the right thing. And I know that ain't just as simple as I made it sound. Yeah, there's going to be a lot more has to be done there. But in theory, if we got our government back to where it should be, where it represents the people, then that money is going to be used properly, ideally, right? So it could be used the right way. However, where I am more right-wing is when we talk about corporate tax rates. You've got to wheel and deal with corporations again, okay? You've got to make them want to have a job here. You've got to have it so they don't want to outsource to China or Mexico, and under the current circumstances, with free trade, no tariffs involved, lower working conditions in countries like that, there's not much really to incentivize them to stay here, even if you were to cut their tax rate. You've got to put barriers in place that would say, okay, stay here, willing to work with you and kind of make it worth your while, but we're putting this in place whether you like it or not, which was in place years ago, and it helped work. It also help unions with negotiation to these employers, right? Current system, unions just incentivize them to leave even quicker. The current system, tax breaks, they're going to say, oh, okay, we'll still outsource and still get a tax break. Yay! This idea of just cutting the taxes across the board with no strings attached has shown it doesn't really work. Don't get me wrong, other models have shown they don't really work either. But again, this is why I'm saying for so many business people involved, why is no one brought up wheeling and dealing here? If you're going to cut the taxes, there has to be some strings attached. There has to be something that says, okay, we're going to cut the taxes. We're going to make it worth your while. In exchange, we would like to see A, B, and C. We want to see that you're meeting the minimum wage set by the state that you're doing business in. Which, I mean, if it's legal, it's whatever. They're going to have to do it anyway. You get what I'm going with this. We want to see that you're doing right by your workers. Trickle-down economics just gives them the money and expects them to do the right thing with it. Some might not. Just put it right back in their pocket. Well, why should we be allowing that to happen? See, that's where I'm not quite on complete libertarian platform. So I'm going to bring up things like that, okay? But wrapping it up, as I said, I will be voting for Jo Jorgensen 2020. While I have voiced some of the disagreements I have in this video, and I've talked about areas where I do agree with Libertarian Party in this video, here's the one thing that I want to say. Regardless of the stance on economics, regardless of anything else, there's one thing that's absolutely sure. If we got the Libertarian candidate elected for president, it would be a much, much, much better option than Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Be a much better option than our two main party front-running ass clowns. Seriously. Oh, by the way, I'll be looking for all those Hollywood celebrity votes when they come out in droves to vote for Jo Jorgensen in November. I would like to thank all the Hollywood celebrities who are going to go vote for Jo Jorgensen so that she can become the first female president in the history of the United States. And the reason why is because they said in 2016 it was time for a woman to be the president, right? Here's your chance. Because your alternative, even counting the Green Party, would be 3 old white men. Here's your woman. You going to stick to your word, or are you going to expose yourselves as the Hollywood frauds we've all thought you to be? I'll give you the benefit of a doubt and say you're all going to be people of your word. So for all the celebrities out there who said that Hillary Clinton should be the president in 2016, that it was time for a female president, I would like to thank you for casting your votes this November to elect Jo Jorgensen. Been a pleasure.